fan asks, what is the first disc golf disc you threw?
Disc golf disc. Well, you know what, I can say the first disc I threw, disc period, is a Mars platter. That was like in 1958, and it cost 69 cents too. And then playing Frisbee golf, the first disc, specifically made for Frisbee golf. I threw other Frisbees before that for playing disc golf, but it was a 40 mold, I suppose. That was the one that Hedrick was, you know, it was a Frisbee. You can get in a package, and he put weighting agent and made it heavy. But the first real golf disc was, of course, the one that we made. Production anyway was the Eagle, and then a month later the Arrow, and then we were off and running after that.
So Hans Christian asks.
Say again?
Hans Christian asks.
Anderson?
Restad. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But okay. Do you think it's possible to make a disc that reinvents the game, or is it all about small increments of better discs now?
Is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but you know, you have to design within the parameter restraints of the PDGA, really. So yeah, it's small tweaks that make, that's you, small tweaks that make the, you know, the disc perform a little bit better, and they're still happening. The secret to putting and driving and approaching and everything else is to putt with the traction. You know what I mean? It's your interface between you and your disc. People always try to throw their disc. You can't throw your disc, but you can, you know, putt against the traction, and that carries the disc to the basket. And you're not going to get any acceleration on your putt or your drive or your approach unless you do it off the traction. Hey, that tree swatted me down.
Kring Travis asks, do you have any tips on how to get a better flight while putting, and what plastics are best for putters?
Well, I can tell you what kind of flight do you want. If you want a straighter flight, you know, putt more nose down, and the additional benefit to a nose down type of putt is it's good in wind. Nose up flight on a putt is going to accentuate the low speed overstability, and it's going to suck in the wind. As far as plastics, what's the best plastic? Whatever feels the best to you in your hand. If you're talking about the interface between the plastic and the basket, you know, man, it could be anything. KC is what most pros like, and I think it's because it gets less spit outs and bounce backs off the pole than other plastics. Pretty rigid. You know, I hate the plastic myself. I cannot throw that stuff. I like XT myself. Very, very grippy. Grips the chains well. The downside of that is that if you're on the left side of the chains, you might have a little bit more spin out. The upside is you may have a little more pull in on the right side. So it just depends upon what you want. And it's a 2. FD, yes. One of the 2 best fairway drivers. That and a Leopard 3.
All right, so Captain Scott EO asked, Dave, you are awesome. Question, I'm 51 and I cannot get out there like the younger players. You stated I could catch the power players, but I can get my hatchet out there, kinda, if I throw it right. Will the Daedalus turn over and or be unpredictable for an average guy like me?
If you're an average guy, it's not going to be unpredictable or turn over. The only downside of these longer wing discs is they tend to be a little bit more nose sensitive. So if you're throwing nose up, you know, you're going to get more low speed fade. Nose down, you're going to get more turn and stuff like that. But as far as flipping over because you're throwing it too fast, not going to happen. Unless you're throwing it to a big wind. You're just a lack of confidence. You know, if you haven't done it, it's like, are you ever going to catch up to this thing? You know, you think like maybe you're not, but you do. Yeah, that worked.
Good one. That way.
See that power he's got and the lack of control? Good power.
It was the right line. All right, we got another question from a older gentleman, Rob Johnson. Dave, I'm an older beginner, 51 years old, trying to figure out the 3 best discs to start off with. I'm thinking of Archangel, Shark, and Birdie, but I'm not sure if I'd be better off purchasing the DX disc golf set. What do you advise?
Well, the DS disc golf set is that way for a reason. It's a good starter set. You get, one of the best putters in the world with an AVR, Shark, which is one of the best mid-ranges, extremely underrated because it's overshadowed by the rock, but the Shark is just as good as a rock. And Leopard, one of the best fairway drivers ever. Lighter weight, easier to throw to start, so yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with that. You might want the, what was that one that you mentioned, the driver?
Archangel.
Archangel to go farther later, but earlier it's probably a little more difficult to throw because it's a longer, flippier disc. You went that way. I got a driver putt.
One from Ola. Not sure if that's how you pronounce her name. But,
Sounds like hello.
She says,
Hola.
Hi Dave, I'm a female and new to disc. I've been throwing mostly fairway drivers for my first throw, and I think I'm ready to throw a distance driver. What would be a good choice for my first distance driver?
Whoa. I don't know what fairway driver she's been throwing, but let's assume a Leopard or something like that. I would say a Sidewinder or a Roadrunner probably, Depends on how much power she has. Sidewinder, pretty easy to throw, get distance with. If she has lower power than that, and she wants to get more distance, you could use a Mamba. Mamba's pretty cheap distance there if you don't have much of an arm. If you throw it too far, you go in the street. That's what you have to worry about.
No, I got a route on this.
At the Heiser?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheater.
I don't see any Mandos.
It's not going to stay over. Didn't suck.
What disc have you had the longest? Or even what disc do you have a certain connection to and why?
Well, AVR. It's the second oldest disc, and it's still the best putter platform ever. Most copied, and if you're not throwing an AVR of some sort, you're probably throwing some kind of copy of it. Where's Ricky Wysocki when you need him?
Why do you have that connection to the AVR?
It's one of my babies. Well, no, you need a putter, right? And why not use the best one, And it's been that way for, 30 years or more, 33 years. Really hasn't been improved upon much. Little tweaks here and there. The original AVR is still, arguably the best one there is. It's what Paul Macbeth's putting with, and a different plastic. Personally, I think for all around AVR, so I don't really think that his putter is the best driving AVR. I think the best driving AVR is a Whale, and it's probably just as good a putter as Paul's putter, but anything Paul's putting with is going to be really good, But the Whale is something you can throw sidearm, you can throw backhand in a wind, no wind. It's very straight, very true, very forgiving, but it's still an AVR. It's just the latest iteration of an AVR, and it's in my bag. Perfect.
Out there.
Right there.
So Nick L asks, the Thunderbird has quickly become a go-to driver for me, and I loved it from the first throw. What was the first disc you threw in which you thought, this is a keeper on the very first throw?
The first one was Arrow for me. You know, the Eagle was the first disc I threw, but I changed that one because it was unstable. Turned out people like unstable better than stable because they go farther and they're easier to throw. But I like the stable because that was golf. That was a real golf disc. It was controllable. You could throw it in the wind, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, when we retooled the Eagle and threw the Arrow and it went dead straight where I wanted to go, that was it. You should be beating me on this hole.
Should and will are way two different things.
Wow. Yeah, you got a lot of power on that thing.
Had a little slip.
Yeah, it was a good shot.
From Bradley H. And he asked, with all the discs like a Rock 3, Mako 3, Shark 3, etc., will there be any high-speed driver molds like a Destroyer 3?
That's a good question, actually. And very timely. I'm actually working on it. And there is already one. It's called the Colossus. That's the first of the 3 series long-range drivers. But I'm trying to do some more. And I'll know in a couple months. It takes way too long to make a new mold.
What is the Colossus a 3-top of?
What do you mean a 3-top of?
Well, you know, you got a Shark and then you got a Shark 3. So what was the
disc? It's the same general shape as the disc you're throwing.
Thunderbird?
Yeah, it's just like a Thunderbird top. Bottom's completely different, but you know, it has to match. Oh, nice nose up hyzer.
Still really straight up for it though.
Well, considering how bad I threw that, yeah, it ended up okay.
So Ryan S asks, the Atlas and Nova are 2 of my favorite discs, and I hope you continue to make new molds using the overmold technology. Does Innova plan to make an overmold driver?
Not right now. I don't see. They're very expensive molds, very difficult to run the way that we run them. You know, if you were just shooting a little nose cone around the outside, it would be much easier, but ours is much more difficult to do. But I'm very happy about those 2 discs. They are, in my opinion, the straightest flying and fastest stopping mid-range and putter in the business. The Atlas is as straight as they come and lands flat, stops quick. Same with the Nova. When you throw it flat, it flies flat. And just drives dead straight and it stops real quick. That's why Paul uses a Nova on hole 17 at the USDGC, because you have to stop. You have to get there, go straight. You don't have to go straight at it, but he knows where he's throwing and he throws it and then stops on a dime and uses Macbeth putter to put it in every single time. Oh, you didn't film that, did you? I mean, it went in, but wow. That's a Queeble. Yeah, that's good. Starting to use that damn big, huge monkey thumb. No, it's not a monkey thumb. What is that? I got a monkey thumb. Yeah, you got these big, gigantic things.
SW asks, how are you so good at making discs that you don't personally like? Hashtag Firebird rules.
Yes, that is true. I don't like the Firebird because it's fairly useless for me. If I wanted a disc that was Firebird-like, in that you could throw backhand and sidearm, which a Firebird is pretty good at, and overhead, which a Firebird is good at, I would use the Thunderbird because I think it's more versatile. It's not quite as severe. How do I design it? Because I know what makes this fly. really easy to design overstable discs. That's cake. Anybody can do that. And they suck. I mean, but you know, I can design them. Okay, Firebird doesn't suck. It's good. You know, Nate Sexton especially, and he's really good with it. But they suck for me. And if you don't have a lot of power, you know, you don't want to play with those. I'm going to try to flip this one. Good. That'll keep me out of the street. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's excellent. You're going to have to come back and still be in bounds and way downtown. What?
Chris DG98 says, what would be an ideal starter forehand disc?
Starter forehand disc. Well, something relatively low profile. And wow, just like that last question, I would say the Thunderbird. Thunderbird is an excellent forehand disc. It's got enough stability and torque resistance to, you know, to throw sidearm, and it's not so overstable that everything is going to come back like a meat hook. So I think that's a good one.
Any particular plastics that you would recommend?
Well, I like G-Star, and Thunderbird's actually one of the few discs that actually has kind of a thick shoulder where it's not going to deform. So it's just making it grippier. It's kind of like a softer star in any other driver. The G-Star comes out like that. So I would say G-Star, good grip. And use your thumb a lot when you throw that sidearm.
All right, Dave. Tate asks, hey Dave, I'm beginning to really fall in love with the sport of disc golf. One question I still have is relating to the dominess of the disc. I have a flat top destroyer, but I'm wondering, what does the amount of dome on the disc do? And what leads to the differing amount of dominess from disc to disc?
Well, take the last part first. The differing amount of dominess relates to the plastic and the conditions that it was molded in, and you know, the plastic being plastic. You know, it's very variable. Manufacturers are supposed to be sending us the same stuff every time. It never happens. You know, one batch is the same. Not even necessarily that. You know, we may get 2 or 3 different batches for one load of plastic. So the different plastics that we get make a difference in the way that the disc forms up, shrinks up, and well, it forms up and shrinks up. But what does it do to the disc? Basically, the more dome you have in your disc, the more glide you have, and it makes it a little slower because that glide is at the expense of speed. It takes more energy to go through the air. Domey discs are more subject to off-axis torque than flat discs, but generally Domey discs tend to finish straighter and fly a little bit more mellow too. So it just depends on what you want.
Solid up. So we got a question from William Gummison, Innova team member. It says, Dave, in my opinion, Innova is superior to other brands when talking about disc lineup in general. Missing one thing though, an overstable mid-range that can stand up in a headwind, but not a meat hook like the Gator, yet more overstable than the Rock. The Commander and Sentinel has such a special grip not fitting my hands. He's Swedish, by the way, so forgive the English.
Okay. We don't have one in the lineup. I guess we could make a more overstable Rock, but we don't really have any plans for it. And yeah, the Commander is exactly what you're talking about. For now, maybe you could try working with it this way. Hello. I wanted to know what the name of that overstable Rock variation we had. The what? Maybe. No, it was a... That's one of them. But that's not the one I was. Wasn't that one? It was more brutal than that one. Jerry was thrown in for a little bit at La Mirada.
Definitely would help out.
No, about not more than a year ago, I don't think.
I could probably just swing by and grab it.
The bull, is that what we called it? Yeah, I think that's it. What happened to the bull?
Okay. All right, thanks.
That's what I'm thinking. And made it less overstable, or what? What did we do? Yeah. Huh. I'm not sure what happened after that either. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. Bye. The bull was that one. Never made production. Too overstable. However, he did give me a name of our current most overstable rock is the Rockamunga, which is basically it's the Cucamonga rock with the VTEC stripper on it. It'll handle winds better than any of the other rocks. That's all I got. However, we could use a different plastic to make it even more overstable. We could run the Rockamunga in XT plastic and it would make it even more overstable. So that may be what he wants.